All right, and action.
I held the last note in my hand, and while I waited for the race to begin, I looked at it. This note had changed everything. I was one of them.
When I came out of film school, I basically decided to stay here in Arizona instead of going to LA or New York like a lot of the people did. And the reason I did that is because I think that you can make movies anywhere. You don't have to go to those places anymore. It's not necessary. We have the internet, we have cheap cameras. It took me a little while to come up with Running Wild Films, and then after we did, we just started making movies and have been making movies since then.
This is a first step situation with this. We're trying the internet, we're making the movies, we're putting it out there. It might take a while to develop, the audience to develop, to find out what's happening, but I think it will happen.
My world was rocked after I got out of film school and decided to do Running Wild and to do it on my own and be self-sustaining. It was a totally different practice than what we'd learned. They're gearing you up for Hollywood, right? So I basically had to re-educate myself.
We make the picture and we don't wait around. One of the things is that in so many professions, this being one of them, you're always waiting for somebody. Rather than wait for somebody else to decide whether your work is good, bad, acceptable, it's always guesswork anyway. And so what happens is somebody puts himself or herself into position of determining what the audience wants to see. You know, who knows? You know, put it out there. And so with the internet, you can. And so that's what we do.
Basically, from the start, we decided that we would release all of our films straight to the internet and that we wouldn't mess with festivals. So we make a film, and then as soon as it's done, we put it online and try to get as many people to watch it as possible. With our full-length movies, we put them on our website, and we're trying to get people to download and stream them for a small cost, like $1 or $5. Within Running Wild Films, we've made 25 short films approximately and 2 full-length movies. We're currently in production on 2 more full-length movies. And we have, like I said, 52 short films being made next year.
To Winslow?
Winslow?
Yeah, you know, standing on a corner in Winslow, Arizona.
I hate that song.
Well, nice quiet town.
A filmmaker named Werner Herzog, who's a foreign and independent filmmaker, said that when you approach filmmaking and becoming a filmmaker, you have to be like the guy who is on top of a building about to commit suicide. He takes a leap off the building, and at first he says, "Oh shit," and then after that he's like, "Okay, I have to fall, 50 stories, better enjoy it," right? So that's kind of what it's like. You take a leap of faith and you just falling through the air, as depressing as that sounds. After producing my first feature-length movie for $1,000, which was much less than anyone told me I could produce it for, the people at ASU, the people in the Arizona film community, anyone I talked to said, "You're a fool, you can't do that, you can't make a good movie for that amount." After doing that, seeing that it could be done and done well, I felt encouraged.
1Z, take 2.
We've been patient with you, Bobby. We've been gracious. Do you know what grace is?
Take 2.
Action.
Jesus, Michael, you scared me.
Wound up, right? But I think slow it down.
Yeah.
Right? Slow it down again. Alex, you should be getting some of this so it documents what I have to go through on set.
They've got to find an audience. And the parallel I look at it with is when, again, going back when I was a young person like yourself, that's when paperback books started coming out. The first paperbacks were really reprints of the hardbound. So the hardbound was the equivalent to the big studio pictures. But as the time went on, they started printing original paperbacks that got people following some of those writers. And after a while, some of those original paperbacks, they were actually printing more of them than they were of the hardbound books. But I think that independent film, particularly with the help of the internet, is going to go the route of the paperback book.
I think there's an audience for anyone out there making any type of work. The struggle is finding the audience. connecting with them. If people gave independent films a chance, they would find out that they're not so weird, they're not so different, that it's a more original take on the material that they're used to seeing. If they found themselves watching something different occasionally, I think that they would actually be happier people, and that it would give them a broader perspective on the world.
I think the attraction to independent cinema is to see something that's original, to see something that's thought-provoking, or that sort of, this is going to sound a little hokey, I'm afraid, but to sort of shed light on the human condition. I think one of the things about great art of any kind, and certainly film, is what does this film or book or sculpture or television show say about the human condition in our society at this given moment? And that is the kind of sort of thinking person's cinema that is going to come from an independent film.
Eddie?
Where have you been, man? I've been trying to get a hold of you.
Yeah, I've been busy.
What are you up to tonight? You want to get a drink?
Maybe. You ever been to a place called the Living Room?
No, but I've heard about it. It's a cougar bar.
Cougar bar?
You know, women of a certain age looking for boys to fuck.
They have bars just for that?
We talk about originality on that level. Originality for them might be $50 million, you know. On our level, originality is our energy, our imagination, and what we need to spend, not what we're going to spend, but what we need to spend to make the film look as good as we want it to be.
I think that there's original content being produced in Hollywood. It might be on the kind of like off Hollywood, it might be in the dark corner, but for the most part we're seeing, you know, sequels like you said, and giant films without good scripts. Occasionally one will come through with a great screenplay, but for the most part they're not putting much thought into the content, just the special effects.
All my life it's been that way with the studios because they are a financial entity. They have to make money. And so when we talk about sequels, they know the original made money. They figure people like that, they might want more of the same. And they were doing it even in the 50s when I was a kid. They just weren't doing it in the great numbers that they are now. But when you look at the box office, it justifies it.
It's a different business model than it used to be back when sort of the new Hollywood came about in the early 70s. At that point, there were more director-driven films and thought-provoking, you know, more mature adult kind of films that you know, not just made for teenagers, and you know, that's not Hollywood's main business at this point.